Yesterday was a bit of a topsy-turvy ride, Nikunj.
Nisha, you can't read too much into yesterday's price action, frankly. I mean, we were working does not mean the world was working. Even Avarna was not working.
Yeah.
So I would not read, frankly, too much into yesterday's price action in isolation to make a market view. But having said that, I guess now now there are two things which really would be at play, and which in a sense has been the template for 2020 for Jan of every year. One, will the seasonality kick in? Historically, Jan has not been a very gratifying month for the bulls. It is more down than up. Second, the flows. I mean, will we see large allocation coming back into markets from FIs? We saw evidence of that and what magic it did in the month of December and in November. Will that really continue? And see, are markets running slightly ahead of themselves, and irrespective of what tone and tonality we get from the corporates, are we likely to run into what could be called as buy the rumor and sell the news kind of an earnings season? I think for me, those are the templates which really would be at play. So if I put all the templates aside and if I have to make a market view purely on the Nifty, I would say that you may just be in some kind of a range with perhaps a flat bias for next couple of days. That's what market indicators are. Look at the Nifty, the put call ratio, the trend, and the kind of market movement we've seen. So I'm not saying you prepare yourself for volatility, prepare yourself for downside, but I'm making a case that maybe there is a case where markets in the next few days are just likely to linger along here and there with getting tossed from the upper end of the range to the lower end of the range. You need something new for the market now to take a giant leap forward. It got one because of state election. It got the other one from US Fed. It was followed by FIs. What would be that
next
trigger? Which is what I think markets would hunt for. There is no budget.
Yeah.
So you will not see that as a trigger. Earnings season, by and large, I mean, there's universal consensus that things would be strong. There is a pre-established view that flows will be strong. So there are a lot of pre-established views which markets have. And you need something more to add that spring to the stride for the bulls now.
Let's see whether we get that spring or not, because there was an interesting note from Kotak as well talking about how this year is going to be a tussle between fundamentals and sentiment, because if you go by fundamentals, the return is going to be modest, in fact negative for many, but the returns can vary because one can't factor in the sentiment, and that was at play towards the end of last year. So don't know how long can that really continue, and that sentiment has taken a lot of these companies to the 1 lakh crore market cap as well. In fact, a lot of new additions that we have seen since September 30th of this year. Of course, those public sector entities, the PFCs and REC of the world have got added in terms of the 1 lakh crore club. You also had a couple of these Tata Group companies, Trent and Tata Consumers, for instance, got added to that 1 lakh crore market capitalization group as well. And then the latest entrant being Macrotech, as well as a few other names like PNB, etc., that got added. So, Nikunj, I think if you look at the total number of these 1 lakh crore companies now, it's above 75.
It's such a nice feeling, I mean, earlier any company would go above 1 lakh. It used to be like 2 or 3 companies in a year. Now you've got like 10 companies which have suddenly gone up in the month of December. Let's go to that list again. There are two commonalities. One, if you have a prefix Tata, welcome to the club. And you have a prefix PSU, welcome to the club. I guess two groups. So look at PFC, REC, Trent. Trent is a Tata Group company. PFC, REC, they both are owned by Government of India, or they are PSUs. Flip it around, you will see a name like Tata Power coming to the 1 lakh club. Macrotech, odd one out. Tata Power, Tata Group company, GAIL, a PSU company. So Macrotech, I think, is the odd one out from 30th of September. But I mean, there are two bull markets in front of us, guys. One is PSU bull market, one is the bull market in Tata Group of companies. And both these bull markets, you would say, purely as the fundamentals of the market are such. These are not companies where you would actually have existential crisis. These are not the companies where you have a debt as a problem. These are not the companies where you would say that business is going to slow down. So the risk is a valuation risk, not existential risk. And I think for me that's heartening. Why? Because when some of the companies which have existential risk, when they go up, and when you know that the tide will turn, that's the time you have a problem. So I'm not very disturbed with the profile of stocks which are going higher. See, Anisha, what Kotak is saying is absolutely right. In a bull market, crazy things can happen, and you don't know what could be the extent of that craziness. We are just in and around the long-term averages, so it's not that crazy things have happened.
Fair.
Please remember, bull market peaks have always happened when things really go haywire and valuations are completely out of whack. With this kind of a fundamental underpinning of the economy and what is happening in the world, we are not even close to the bubble levels of what we saw in the last bull markets. So I don't think we are there yet, what could be called as bubble. And Naren, I think we'll take this part of his conversation out. And he said that, look, just because markets have gone higher does not mean it's a sell. Yeah. Because you don't know the extent of what it could go higher. And it was very nice where he said, and it just sort of stayed with me, which is that, Nikunj, the last leg of any bull market or the last phase of any bull market, you may actually see like a crazy move. We've seen parabolic move in small cap stocks. We've seen a hyperactive move in mid cap stocks, but we've not seen a parabolic move in large cap stocks. That's my limited point.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess even the levels that we're seeing at the current juncture, I don't think that was entirely anticipated. So to a certain extent, unprecedented, even the kind of move that we've seen so far for the markets. But speaking of these PSUs, speaking of them, entering the 1 lakh crore market cap club, the question is what the new year could perhaps mean for the PSU stocks going ahead. And we did speak with some of the top market experts, and they all sounded pretty optimistic. Listen in.
Longer term, the way their balance sheets have improved, I think general policy has been quite supportive to creating value in PSUs.
My personal feeling is that the leadership, as they keep telling, is very much intact with the public sector stocks. They probably have a largest way to go still, because typically if you see in the bull market leadership, the stocks go up 10x, 20x after some point. So I would remain invested in good quality businesses.
Look at the index, for example, the PSE index. Clearly, we have been much more positive on power within the PSU theme than other areas, because we felt that the power generating areas are still more reasonably valued compared to the other areas. And we have been more positive on the upstream areas in the PSU theme, because these were the two themes where the price to earnings was much more reasonable than many of the other PSUs.
Okay, so that's a view